Mr. Blake?
Well, I'm going to agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Bogue that the raiding of our local government coffers has got to stop. That is number one. Also, I want to say, as far as immigration, that is a federal issue, and there is nothing that can be done about that. What we need to do to solve the financial impact is to be sure that Washington reimburses California for costs associated with following federal immigration law. The other places that I would cut would be for small business, incentives for small business to get going, and then replace that tax revenue by closing the loopholes on the giant corporations that are incorporated in Andorra and send their profits to the Cayman Islands.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
We need to eliminate waste, and there's great amounts of waste that we see. I've been teaching for 15 years, so most of my waste that I notice is in public education. Here's some waste that I see. I want to keep the cuts away from the classroom, and right now we're cutting teachers' positions. We're cutting classified employees' positions, but yet the Department of Education, you don't see cuts there. You don't see the administrators that work at the California Department of Education cut there. You don't see the County Office of Education, the San Bernardino County Office of Education. You don't see cuts there. The credentialing department, you don't see cuts there. There's tons. If you go to Sacramento and you go to these offices, these 8, 10, 12-story buildings that say Department of Education on there, you'll find a little bit of waste and a little bit of positions that can be cut.
Mr. Monica?
The sacrifices must start in Sacramento. We need to roll back salaries for legislators and all staff in Sacramento. It hasn't worked up there for 10 years. It's time the sacrifices start there. We need to have privately run state prisons. They'll be more efficient, and it'll save $5.5 billion a year just for that element. And also, people on health, welfare, and human service benefits need to earn their way. They simply can't get a free ride. They must be trained, program working cycles, and get back into the workforce and earn their money. Those 3 areas we need to do the first year I'm in office.
We are ready to get started on our closing comments, and we will start with Mr. Peters.
Well, I'm just going to read right here my positions. Nuclear energy. We need to go nuclear energy. That's the way of the future. We're going to be depending on electricity in the future with electric cars and all the things. We need to go nuclear. No to same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage is an issue about freedom of thought. If the law passes gay marriage and you speak out against gay marriage after it's the law, you're going to be retaliated for that. If you're a school teacher, if you're a college professor, if you're any other individual and you speak out against gay marriage once it's the law, you're going to be punished if you speak out against it. School choice. This is the biggest issue right now. Our children are being held back, our poor children, because they don't have school choice. And I think that we need to let parents and children decide which schools they want their kids to go to. So I'm for vouchers, and I'm for a $5,000 tax credit. I can see I'm not going to get through all these. Protecting the border. Whether it's the federal government's responsibility or not, but California should be protecting our border. We need more restrictions on abortion. We need longer prison sentence for violent crime. We need the death penalty for murderers and child rapists. We need to mandate Indian gaming revenue. We should not be doing compacts on agreements on how much the money is going to be. It should be a set amount, 25% of the profits, written into law. We need to improve our roads. We need to have parent rights. We need to protect our religious freedoms. We need to protect the environment. We should have the right to carry a gun. I believe in the castle doctrine. If someone comes into your house, I spoke about the 2% sales tax rebate. We need to eliminate the California oil tax, and we need to raise the crate charges.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Mr. Monica.
The legislator in Sacramento is broken. Partisan politics inhibit legislation daily. Voters are no longer considered important. Too much government has led to the worst recession in the history of California. As an American independent, I have the skills, training, and background to bring leadership and unity to the 37th Senate District. You have a choice. You will know where I stand on issues. For example, we've got to emphasize economic recovery the first year in office. There's no other choice. We've got to get back on track. Job creation. Enough funding for education so our children can have an impact in society when they finish. The billions of dollars we save from a privately run prison system, which was just as efficient as that is. I've been married to 42 years to my wife, Mary Ann. Raise your hand, sweetie. Wind beneath my wings. Thank you. Thank you. We have two sons, Matt and Joseph. You know, I had to get Matt in there. Mary Ann and I are advocates for pro-life, traditional marriage, and animal rights. I'm 65 years old, a Marine Corps veteran, Rotarian. I have an AA from College of the Desert, bachelor's and master's degrees from Cal State University Northridge. I retired from College of the Desert in Palm Desert after 33 years serving as a coordinator, counselor, and instructor. I have served on the Desert Sands School Board for 24 years, 5 times as board president. I'm in my 24th year at this time. Obviously, and I don't say that flippantly, I know how to balance a budget, especially in these difficult times. I don't want your money, ladies and gentlemen. I want your vote. Together, and you'll notice my little lighthouse, together we can make the 37th Senate District the lighthouse district in California. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Bogue.
Well, thank you. A very famous president once asked, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" It's an appropriate question. And I ask the question because, quite frankly, I am not the choice of Sacramento. Sacramento special interests have already spent almost $500,000 trying to defeat me. If you are, if you're happy with the way things are running, don't vote for me. I am someone who has been in the legislature and certainly would argue that that makes me qualified. But let me tell you what makes me more qualified, the fact that I've been out for 3 years. This is deja vu for me. In 2001, I was elected in a special election. The state had a $20 billion budget deficit, $24 billion. Gray Davis was governor. Jobs were leaving California. My last year as the Assembly Republican Caucus chairman, that $20 billion budget deficit was down to 4. We had jobs coming back in. Revenues were increasing into the state. How did we fix it? California today has a crisis of hope. Let me tell you how we fixed it. We applied 3 simple Reagan Republican values. First, we cut taxes. The very first thing we did is we eliminated the tripling of the car tax. That injected a whole bunch of money back into the California economy. And people responded by taking that extra money and putting it back into shops and buying things. The second thing is we started to eliminate bad government. We made significant reductions onto the workers' compensation, significant fixes. It unleashed the entrepreneurial spirit. We had businesses that were leaving California because of workers' compensation. We fixed it. It unleashed the entrepreneurial spirit. And third and finally, we didn't spend more money than we took in. Pretty simple concept. And when we started doing those 3 things, the people of California were set free, and it fixed the economy. What happened? Republicans in the legislature started going to the Democrats. Last year, they raised taxes $12 billion. I don't have to tell you what the economy's like. I don't have to tell you how bad the government is. If you want to change, you can do it on April 13th, and I'd like to ask for your vote as well.
Mr. Blake.
California's problems are clear. We need a balanced budget, we need good jobs, and we need quality education. Everybody's got a different idea how we're going to come together and do that. Our representatives have not served us well in the last 6 to 10 years. Riverside County enjoys unemployment rates and poverty levels that stand way above state and national averages. There's widespread frustration from both the left and the right. I want you to know my mother was a devout Irish Catholic. My dad was a hard-shell Southern Baptist. I went to an Assembly of God undergraduate school and then married a Methodist. I can work with anybody. Except the Methodist. She's gone. Greater opportunities in education and employment translate to less poverty, lower demand for social services, and less need for costly prisons. It costs a lot less to keep a boy in school than it does to keep a man in prison, so let's keep him in school. When the system works, and when times are good, people are content across all political spectrums. This is supposed to be a government by the people. Without your participation, it cannot work. It cannot work when our government is comprised of us and them. I'm not running because I want to be one of them. I'm running for the privilege of being one of you. And I give you my word that I will serve all Californians equally well to the best of my ability. And I humbly ask for your vote.
But I would like to say again to Mr. Blake, Mr. Bogue, Mr. Monica, and Mr. Peters, thank you very much for your participation, and thank you all of you for attending today's meeting. Have a good day.